All right, hello. Thank you guys for tuning in to Empower You, Crown Up. That's Empower, the letter U, Crown Up, where we believe in empowering our entrepreneurs, our educators, and our moms to cultivate better relationships so that way they can prioritize their mental health and just be better, whole, just all the whole 9 yards, just together, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Today, we have a special guest with us today, Miss Sharon Hudgins, and we're just excited to have her. Hello, Sharon.
Hello, Brittany. How are you?
I am doing great. Oh my goodness, it's just such a pleasure to have you on our episode on our show today. Tell us about you and what it is that you do.
All right. Well, Brittany, my name is Sharon D. Hudgins. I am an early educator, and I help early childhood professionals to earn additional income by sharing their stories and expertise. So I run book collaborations and help educators who have stories inside of them. They have expertise, and almost every educator I've ever asked, Brittany, wants to be an author, right? So here I am helping them to do it in 90 days or less with overcoming the fear. Even if they think they don't have anything important to say, we all have something of value to share with the world.
Yes, that is so true. And I'm glad you said that because I feel like when you're in that educational world that only certain people get you because they understand your experiences, you know? I can't tell you how many times I've spoken to people and that are out of education, they don't get it. But when you meet someone in education, I don't care where I've met them at, whether it was traveling internationally or where, meeting an educational expert or a counselor, we have stories to laugh and talk about for days. So yes, people always have a story or something to share.
Mhm.
I love it. So with your helping people in 90 days or less write a book, that's very impressive because so many people out here are telling me that it's been taking them years to write a book or they've been wanting to write a book. And so what do you do? Like, do you focus on the mindset or how do you get people in that realm of 90 days, write their book, get it done?
Well, one of the things that we do, Brittany, like I said, it's a collaboration project, right? And so you are not responsible for writing the entire book.
Okay.
You're only responsible for your part. So it makes me think about how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time. So how do you write this book one bite at a time? But we have lots of bites, right? Lots of people who are biting. So it enables us and it enables me then to support each individual author at the level that they need their support because they're not writing 12 chapters. They're not looking at, oh my God, I've got to get 200 pages of information out. They're just getting their chapter, focusing on their story and their particular expertise.
Oh man, I love that so much because that helps you a lot. It's all about collaborating, not
Yes.
feeling like you have to do it. And I think that reduces a lot of fear right there. And I feel like you want to do this, but how do I even get started? What I do? Because you're the expert. You can lead and guide us all to get there. So I love that
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much.
That,
So
yeah.
thinking about what were you about to say?
Yeah, I was going to just share that there's a process that I take the authors through at
Okay.
the very beginning, and we talk about hopes and fears, right? About this whole project. And I promise you, the fears are always the same. Like, what am I going to write about? I'm not important enough. Who's going to want to purchase my book because I'm just a nobody? It's going to cost a whole lot of money. And so that's the other thing, right? You know, when you are publishing alone and you go out to these big publishing houses, it can be very expensive. But when we do it as a collaboration project, it also helps to cut costs down. And so we help them to overcome those fears that they have by doing this together as a group. So we're supporting one another, right? You don't have to do it all by yourself, and it's not going to cost you five figures in order to become a published author for the first time.
I love it. And then you're leaving something for generations and generations to come. Like
Yes.
your words of wisdom. And I don't care if someone says they don't have something to share, you do. Because I mean, living life, you I gotta tell people all the time, it's hard in these streets. Life be lifing. So you
What?
have something to share, whether it's some
Yes.
type of expertise. And I'm glad you said it because when I was teaching, when I was in a classroom, I just felt like I had so many books inside of me. Which I still do. But
Mm-hmm.
at that time, I was like, someone needs to know, like, the challenges that I'm facing here working with low socioeconomic students and just teaching them. It's hard, where I realized I couldn't just open a workbook and just be like, do this or use this formula. I had to get
Mm-hmm.
creative. I had to put their names in the problems so they could see, their names and like, oh, that's my name. Or I had to just find different ways to meet their needs. And so I love that. And, those are different tools and techniques. I'm like, why is this not out here for someone? Because I have to figure this out on my own.
Yes, yes. And Brittany, just like you, there are so many amazing educators in the world, right? But in particular, right here in the US, who are doing amazing, creative, wonderful things to help our children out. I'm a little biased because my mission, I'm all about helping my babies,
Yeah.
Black children who look like me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know that in areas, especially in inner city areas, they have the least opportunities. And so the teachers who work with them come up, just like you said, with so many amazing ideas and ways to support these children to learn. You're right. People need to know because there are other people who are in the same situation who are struggling and they have no clue, right, how to support these children and help them through all of the issues that they may have outside of learning, not just trouble learning, but we know that there are also mental health issues. There are societal issues that they're impacted by. And so, yeah, we as educators, my first book is In the Trenches, Stories from the Heart of Early Childhood Professionals. And that is where we are. We are in the trenches every day with the children and facing so many other bureaucracy, right? You have to be at a certain page at a certain day. Your test scores better look like this or you're going to lose your job. And I think that we pay so much attention to that, it causes a lot of stress.
It does.
For educators. So I think the book collaborations, it also is a place where the authors get to know one another and get to share. And so we almost become like a little support group while we're writing the book. Yeah.
And I love that because when you said that piece right there of having that stress, it takes the fun out of you being able to learn, but also being able to be creative. Because one problem I always had is you come into my classroom because my lesson plans, on this day I should be teaching this. Well, maybe when I started that, like for example, proportions, I can't teach that if we don't know the basics. We can't even multiply or divide. So I had to take it a step back. And so it's like they also have to understand you have to meet your students where they are. I went in day one assuming that I was going to put a formula for perimeter on the board, thinking students were going to do it. And they was like, Miss, what is that? And I'm like, y'all know this. But I realized you never assume that people know anything. And you really, first of all, I was wrong. I needed to build relationships, but they didn't teach me that when I went through my alternative program. It was like, you're going to be a facilitator. And I was clearly not a facilitator. But it prepared me for life and I began to see things differently. And even with my own parenting skills with my own children, like had I not gone back into education, I don't know how things would have been with me and my kids. Cause I'm thinking, with the way our parents raised us and doing things and learning that we have to do things differently. So that leads us to you. What are some quotes or your favorite scripture that you use to keep you and push you to just be better each and every day and just keep going? Because we said life is hard and it is.
Yes, yes, yes. So there are actually many, but one that stood out as soon as you asked that question is to thine own self be true. Because I think that very often we do things to please other people. We do things because we think it's required. because we think it's what people want or what they're expecting. And oftentimes it's in direct conflict with who we are.
Mm.
And so we have to be true to who we are. We have to be authentically me. I can't be anybody else but Sharon.
That's
I
right.
can't be Brittany, and Brittany can't be Sharon,
That's
right?
right.
And so that's one that I focus on, even with the children. I don't, because I'm in birth to five, and so that's not something I say to the children necessarily, but I teach it in how I communicate with them, how I build relationships, and the same thing with the adults that I work. It's the same thing, helping them to believe in themselves
Mm.
because it maybe you wouldn't be surprised, Brittany, because what you do, right? But for some of your listeners, I think you would be surprised to know how many people who stand in front of a classroom
Mm.
every day doubt
Mm.
themselves and doubt their ability. And so again, that's part of what I aim to do, is to help educators to understand how valuable they are and how important they are to the world. Because without us, we wouldn't have anybody. There would be no politicians, there would be no doctors and
That's
lawyers, right?
right.
Because we help them learn how to read, how to get along with people, how to think critically. And so if it weren't for us,
Mm.
hey,
You're
so
right.
we are valuable. We are
Yes.
valuable.
And you're right, because I remember starting out and I was like, man, I can stand in front of these kids and talk all day long. I started with middle school and I can talk all day long. But when it came to having to talk in front of adults, I was like, it felt stage fright. And I'm like, why? Because these kids are going to keep it real with me. They're going to be like, oh, why her hair like that? Why? Like they would literally do that to me, be like,
Yes.
Miss, your lash is not done. What happened to your lash? And I'm like, be quiet and do your work. But I'm like, wow. And I remember one time my dad was like, how's it going? And I was like, honestly, I feel like I'm an actress. Like, because regardless of what I'm dealing with at home, these kids are expecting me to step up to the plate and teach them and show up and show them that I care. And so I realized that whatever I'm dealing with, I got to put it to the side. But also, I've learned now is that sometimes we got to just be real about it. If you having a moment, you having a day, just be real and be yourself. And that shows our kids and our students that life happens, but you
Yes.
still have to push through and show up.
Yes.
You can't just be like, just forget it. Even though
Yes.
sometimes you feel like that. So that
Yes.
brings us to our next question.
Mhm.
When you were a child growing up, did you ever envision that you would be this amazing author with all these books and just really inspiring, empowering the world through mindset and valuing their education?
Mm. So, did I think I was going to be all of this that I am today? Had no idea, right? But I knew I wanted to be a teacher. My fifth grade teacher, Mrs. Ravina Robinson, and she has transitioned on, and she inspired me. And from the fifth grade on, I'm going to be a teacher. Because when I think back to my fifth grade year, right, I just remember having fun. We did so many things, and she flipped learning. We happened to I'm dating myself. I happened to be in the fifth grade in 75, 76. So the bicentennial year was coming up, right? We were doing all this celebration in 1976. And so she had a friend who came in, we made a quilt. We had a fife and drum corps. We learned how to play melody flutes and I mean, we literally performed for the school, serious. We looked like a little mini band. Um, we took a trip to Williamsburg, Virginia, okay, to visit the colonial town and see how. So, and when I think of all of those things, I'm like, well, when did we learn? When did we do work? But we did, right? You learn about the judicial system in fifth grade. So
Mm-hmm.
we had a classroom court.
See? And that's
We
what
had,
sticks with you,
yes. And
not
so
reading it out of a
she,
book.
no, and she made learning come to life. So think about it. As old as I am, I'm going back to 1975, 76. And every time I talk, I see it. I see myself as this fifth grader sitting down sewing my block of quilt, right? Standing up, playing our flute outside, performing for the school. And so that was what that was it. I embraced and I said, okay, I'm gonna be a teacher. 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 And here I am, right? So I never though envisioned, Brittany, that the authorship would come, speaking on podcasts, being on stages, winning awards, like that part didn't had no idea, right? I'm now even a part of this impact partnership with 20 other women, and our goal is to make a global impact. And so had no idea that all this would be coming, right? And the cool thing is I'm not done.
Yes.
I feel like I'm just at the age that I am. I feel like I'm just beginning. So it's never too late, y'all. Those of you out there, okay, who are over 50, please, I feel like my life is just really beginning. And so I am embracing it all. I think that for me, whatever your passion is in your heart, whatever it is that you love to do that brings you joy, that's what you should be doing. And so if you're not, figure out how to get there, because that's when I love life, but now I'm learning to love the life that I'm living, right? I am living a life that I can love. So not just loving life because God gave it to me, but I am literally living a life that I am loving. And that, I think, is the ultimate, when you can serve your community and serve people in your purpose and your passion, because it never feels like work.
That's true. That is so true. And you can wake up. I just envision you waking up and just being like, wow, what do I do today? Who can I serve today? What can I do today to make a difference? And I love how you said it doesn't matter your age. Like, you can start over and you can get it right and you can have the life that you desire. And that reminds me, I was reading The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. And he tells a story in there about a lady who literally, like, she went to work, she gets off, retirement age, and she's working at like this JCPenney's, and she's like, I don't like it. I just don't. And she was able to, like, someone told her about sales, and she was like, no, I can't do that. Look at me. I'm like 60 years old. And she did it, and she gave it a chance. And from there, her life was forever changed. Like, she was able to retire. Her children that were in college and all kind of stuff. And I was just like, wow. Had she not, or had she just been closed off to that opportunity? Because I don't know how many people I've met, especially when I was in MLM, and people would be like, no, I'm like, you don't want to hear what I got to say? Nope, nope, nope. But my thing is, at least hear it out so you can make an educated decision. And so that's the same thing with you empowering people and telling people, like, hear it out. You have stories inside of you, but it's about building them up mentally.
Yes.
And so how your fifth grade teacher did that for you and how you have always held on to that and remembered that, I think it's so important to have more teachers like that. But I'm saying a lot of teachers are getting burnt out. And that's why you play a pivotal, important role in helping people. Like, okay, is this your passion? Because it could be you're burnt out, but this is your passion. And it's about pacing yourself, taking those self-care, time for self-care within yourself, and just really getting back together. You remind me, I read an article about a lady, and I was wondering why the teachers not last so long, because I realized I got to a point where I was getting burnt out. And the article stated that a lot of times Caucasian teachers, they last longer because their expectations for our Black and Brown students is low. So whenever our Black and Brown does exceed, they're like, oh, that's great. But for us, for African Americans who are in the classroom, we know firsthand what it's like, for people to go to jail and to have to deal with so many hardships. And it was saying we weren't lasting long because students are not taking their education serious. And we know what it's like, but it's like no one's hearing us. And so what words of advice would you give to that teacher who is on the fence? She's like, I'm done. Like, I have given my all. I want to make a difference, But I just don't know how. Like, I feel like I'm at a never yet losing battle because the parents ain't on my side. The teachers sometimes come against you. Like, what can I do?
Wow. So I'm going to go back to my quote, to thine own self be true,
Mm,
right? You have to decide, first of all, like you said, is this just burnout? Or is there really something else I should be doing? Because sometimes there are people who are meant to be in the classroom, and there are people who are meant to get their experience in the classroom to elevate.
mm.
And sometimes, again, that fear, like, me, principal, no way, right? Me writing curriculum, no way. But I think that if that's you, you need to move forward. But if
Mhm,
you are destined for the classroom, because there are some people that's their gift, right?
mhm.
That's where they're going to be. You have to take time out for yourself.
Yes.
You know, that you talk about it all the time, that self-care, pulling back and really, and educators, we are the worst. We take care of everybody
But
else
ourselves.
but ourselves. And so when somebody says, hey, I've got this trip, do you want to go? And the first thing you say is how much? I'm gonna need you to stop thinking that way. And
Yeah.
you need to start saying, oh my gosh, that would be perfect. And then when they say how much, and you're like, ooh, don't say, well, I don't know if I can afford it. Okay, how am I going to find the money to go on this trip?
Because the money's out here.
The money is there. We were talking earlier about how we spend money on what we wanted: nails, hair, fast food, shoes.
Mm,
We spend our money how we want to, right? A
right.
cable bill. A lot of people don't have cable anymore because of all, but you still, even with Fire Stick and all that,
It
you
adds
still
up.
end up spending close to $200 a month on TV.
That's right. That
And
you
then you
barely
sit
have time to
there,
watch if you're in
there's
education.
nothing to watch. So if you just cut your cable off, cut all that stuff off for 3 months, you can go on
Mm,
that trip,
boom.
right?
That's
So we have to remember, and it doesn't always have to be that big, but you should at least once a year, you should take a trip somewhere
that's right.
that's not work related, right? But it can be little things. It could be getting a bath bomb, making sure the kids are situated, tell them don't bother me for 30 minutes, turn your music on, light some candles, and just relax in the tub. It could be as simple as just stopping for 15 minutes and doing some breath work, right? We always think that self-care means these grandiose things like going to the spa and
It's
getting
not.
massage. That's part of it.
Yeah.
But real true self-care is just really taking moments for yourself. And it could be 5 minutes at a time, right?
Yes.
So I think that when you find yourself at that point, it's time to go back within. That means you have been ignoring yourself, and it's time to go back within, because you have to be rejuvenated,
Yeah.
right? So that you can come back the next day and be ready for those children, because they need you. They need you
Yes.
and they love you. They might not show it yet, but they do. And they will be like me when they become adults. They're going to remember, oh my God, I remember Miss Petty when she was in the class, and she would always listen to me.
Yeah. And those are the moments that are priceless, building those relationships. And I think people forget that even with business, you have to build relationships. Like,
Mhm.
period. Yeah,
Period.
so how can everyone stay in touch with you, Sharon, and work with
Oh
you?
my gosh. So I'm working on some new software, right? And in a few days, SharonDHudgins.com will be where you can find me. But
Okay.
I am on all social media platforms as the same person, Sharon D. Hudgins, at Sharon D. Hudgins. So you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on LinkedIn, and we can connect there until I come out with something special for you. I'm going to have a brand new bomb for you come
Okay.
January the 8th.
All
All right, so
right.
stay tuned. Check me out. It'll be all over my social media starting on January 8th. I've got some new things coming down the pipe. So stay tuned.
All right. Thank you so much, Sharon D. Hudgins. I am so excited that you were an amazing guest on our show today. And we look forward to having you back in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Brittany.